Hello and welcome back to Read Becca. I wanted to share with you a short story collection that I absolutely loved, and that was Boys, Beasts, and Men by Sam J. Miller. You can't really tell, but it is a gorgeous dark red cover. This is out June 14th from Tachyon Publishing, so this was an advanced copy that I actually read, and I am now kicking myself because I have two of Miller's other books sitting on my shelves and have not read them, and I love this so much. I need to get to those soon. So I was really excited to read this. It is very definitively gay, so pretty much all of the stories have a clear gay protagonist or main theme, which is not something I have seen before. So I really enjoyed every element of this, but I would say it's extremely heavy going. If you're not looking for sad stories, this might not be the one for you. It is full of content from bullying to homophobia to abuse from parents, AIDS, even down to Stonewall is recorded here as a story that's formatted like an oral history from the experiences of people inside. And there is a big theme of like bullying and bodily control that feels so imminent to me throughout this collection, because we are seeing that so much throughout our world, not just for queer people, but for women at this moment in time. So I found that to be really moving and timely. Every story here is kind of tinged with sadness. They are dirty and beautiful and sad all at once, and the characters are so relatable and ring true. I love how much there is an arc through this where the stories build on each other. From the beginning, we have this story of a child, the very first story. It was one that was kind of underwhelming to me at first, and then as I went along and was getting further into the stories, it really grew on me. And it's such a simple story. It's Allosaurus Burgers is the title, and you're from the perspective of this child who's going on a field trip to see a real Allosaurus. And there's not much to it, but what it's capturing brilliantly is the moment of shift when a child realizes that their parent is just a fallible human. And it manages to do that incredibly effectively without having really any drama or a ton of emotion, but it's just this pristine moment in time that it collects. So I really wound up loving that. So you're in this lens of a child at the beginning, and working through, you see stories of people who are kind of intrinsically monsters themselves, and then that passes into these stories of parents, and parents who are perceiving their children and coming to the realization that they are the monster in their child's life. So we have that through arc that really makes this incredible. So one of those stories is about a mother, and she thinks her son has gotten caught up in drugs. She's trying to chase down information about that. And it's incredible how it's told, because she is a pastor's wife. She is writing a draft of the bulletin after the fact for their church. And so we know as the reader that this bulletin is intended to go to her husband, the pastor, to read and edit before it's published to the congregation. And it's framed in that way, and that makes it so much more powerful. It's so layered, and it has, as I said, that kind of perception of her realizing that she is coming into a new understanding of her child as her child is becoming an adult. So it's really incredible. So I thought that was an amazing story here. It just really blew me away. Through many of these stories, there is this very literal take. And this is a speculative collection. So it has some sci-fi, it has some kind of magical elements, but no overt like fantasy. It's all kind of contemporary or near past, near future type settings. And in one example, so the Stonewall story, there's a very literal expression of the collective power of the people who were there at Stonewall. And I just love that end to the story. I love the way that was explored. In another, there is a very literal interpretation of the King Kong movie being a real setting. So it goes back to 1933, where you're following a taxi driver, and Ann Darrow, who's the main female character in the movie, gets into the cab, and it's him recognizing her and them talking about this massive traumatic experience that the world and their local area went through, basically. And it's such an interesting way of interpreting that and contextualizing these kind of mass tragedies, which again feels extremely timely in the US right now. The way that their world changed as a result, the way people's actions changed. And again, I love that interpretation that's very, very literal. I think there was clear to me some sort of love of cinema that Miller has here. There were a couple of references to more classic films. So I thought that was a really interesting take. So that shows up throughout. As well, I loved the facts that this is really tackling things like class disparity and systemic oppression on top of the individual relationship elements. It's showing how people at an individual level are impacted by these bigger forces of things that are oppressive to them. One of the stories tackled the 2008 housing crisis and talked about the big banks having to appease these sort of house spirits that are meant to have people living in them. Really just interesting ways of kind of twisting your brain around these problems. So I loved everything. I don't want to talk anymore about the stories or give away any of the elements of the stories because you should read them for yourselves. In terms of comps, I kept thinking of Cory Doctorow. He similarly tackles these sort of broken, downtrodden characters who are extremely average people who have a problem they need to solve in their day-to-day life for the most part. I've read a lot of his work, his novels, and his short work. Actually, I've got all my Doctorow over here. But I felt the same thing here, except where Doctorow usually is solving those problems with technology and kind of futurism. Here it's very relational. It's about people burning bridges with bad relationships, overcoming their bully, things like that. It's very interpersonal here rather than being solved by an external force. It's really about overcoming those things or moving forward in some way. And sometimes those are not always the most heroic decisions that people make. I couldn't help but think of Friday Black by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah in the same way, where it's really tackling the same type of character, these very, very downtrodden, mundane people who are being impacted by systemic oppression and class disparity in a lot of ways. They're being bullied and hated on from outside, from people in their community. But in that case, they're engaging with the topic of race versus here where it's much more about sexuality. So I think I have gushed enough about this one. I absolutely adored it. I think you should definitely get in your pre-orders if it sounds interesting to you. It's coming out June 14th from Tachyon, as I said. Thank you so much to Tachyon for granting me an advanced copy here because I really enjoyed it. I think it will be a great option for Pride reading if you still are looking for things there, because this will be out in the middle of Pride, and short stories are always easy to pick up for that. So definitely pick this one up. Thank you so much for watching.